I have you, so kind of in looking at some issues.
I'm sorry. Stacey Powell will be your facilitator for this session.
Oh, okay.
And if you need anything, she's your go-to.
Am I done too?
Yes. Okay. You just started.
Here's a thing up here, Jason.
You just started facilitating. So just go ahead.
Okay, we're good.
He said he's good. He didn't want this table.
So basically, a couple months ago, when I was doing degree audit, it was actually for the English area. I was in question about a requirement that a student had not met. And the advisor came back to me, well, it's not on the advising worksheet. And I'm like, how is that possible? Because it's on my advising worksheet. Well, it turns out that we all have different versions of advising worksheets, okay? The student sees one, faculty see one, and if you look on the last page or the last set, that is how I do the graduation audit, okay? So where you see check marks and X's, I see bullets, okay? So if you look at the first page or the first handout, that's the current advising worksheet. That is what y'all are working with right now. And as you notice when I printed it, and we're going to have to work on this, there are blank pages in between. Okay. And guys, just so y'all know, I brought my trusty sidekick Thomas, where I call him my work husband because we work so closely together. And he allots me 1 hour of his time every week to help me solve all my problems.
Wow.
So thank you, Thomas. So this may be on our agenda come fall, based on the questions and concerns y'all have. So the current advising worksheet, it is showing basically the X's and the check marks that y'all are all familiar with, the dates. It's showing transfer hours. However, I noticed that if you look on my report on the end, it's not giving you any notes in Notepad. Okay, this is a religion advisee named Peter. And if you can go back on the academic records page, you can see where I posted substitutions that we've updated as catalog year. Anything in records that we have done, you are not seeing on the current advising worksheet page. I don't know if that's something that y'all would like to see. Okay, Jason's nodding his head. Okay.
I think it would probably be good. I mean,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Does it show up in course needs when you do that?
The notes,
The substitutions.
the substitutions, it should because
Right,
it's
but that's what I use.
Okay. Now on the second form is the Genza bar out of the box. That is nothing we've done. We have just uploaded this, and this is what Genza bar has created for us. If you notice that this one has no missing in between pages, however, it doesn't have the dates. Do y'all use the dates? You do? Okay, like when something was taken? Okay. Now, do you like the X's and the checks? I don't know how you're accustomed to it. To me, when I look at y'all's, it feels very messy to me compared to the third one, where you are just seeing dots as incomplete items.
I mean, when I'm looking at it on my screen, green and red, I mean, it stands, I'm looking at color.
Yeah.
As I scroll
So you're
through,
looking at color.
but I guess I have. I mean, I'm not married to check marks.
Okay.
As long as the check marks and X's stay different colors, it is usable, but the dots could also work. And that's my perspective.
Okay.
I find it beneficial when you're going through 50, 60 of them. It just aids in,
Colors.
it just pops rather
You
than.
can see the red.
Okay. So, and we can marry these forms. I know that we have to get those pages in between out.
If we use the out of the box, that'll take care of that. That's the
Yeah.
issue.
Is that out of the box?
Yeah, if we can customize the out of the box.
Okay. So let's kind of look at the out of the box, which is the second one in the group. And obviously, we want to add the dates
You can put on the table.
because there's no dates for the courses taught, and y'all find that beneficial. And then y'all would like to see notes that records puts in, you know, okay. So, I'm here for you guys. What are y'all's questions, concerns, issues y'all are having? This is a wide spectrum. Yes, Chad.
What is convenient for you when it comes to substituting the class that's listed in 3 electives that can be used for course?
Okay. So, I always tell people that ask me that, when you're advising and you see that there could be a substitution, let's go ahead and nip that in the bud. I don't want to wait till graduation audit, and to me, I start panicking when I see 5 missing requirements and a waiver of substitution has already been made. So while you're sitting down in your advising sessions with your advising and you see issues, that way we can go through the proper chain of command. You know, it goes to the division chair, dean, so forth, up the ladder. But I would rather get that taken care of initially than us waiting to the last minute and we might have missed something at the audit and they're short hours or it's a repeated course or something like that. A lot of y'all are good at that. There's some that towards the very end, I'm like, oh my gosh, this student looks like they're missing 8 requirements. And it's in y'all's notes that it hasn't been brought over to us. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Do you want to be kept in the loop for that whole process, or you just want to know at the end?
No, I won't add to process. That way, if I need to follow up, if I need to double check, you know, some history. And I also like to put that chain into the notes in the back. Anything else when you're advising that you see issues, continuing issues with? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, maybe this is not the appropriate time for this question, but how do you, when the students transfer credits in, like as an example on the Genzibar out of the box, this student took English composition at Albany State University. Now they say maybe they're moved by leaving the north and coming to the south, but how was it determined that went in that particular place? That course was given credit because it's the same description.
Okay. Yes, let me go over it. Okay, so we're looking on the Genzibar out of the box, English 1101, and out in the parentheses is our course, English 1003.
Right.
Yes, so what happens is, first we look at if the institution is accredited.
Mm-hmm.
So basically your two-year schools within the state, we have articulation agreements and transfer guides. So any course that meets this has been approved to be transferred in either as an elective or as a course that meets our requirement. Okay, Albany State is a 4-year accredited school. So anything will come in that is similar to our courses because it's 4-year accredited. Now, some may fall in electives. Now, if they took basket weaving or engineering or something like that at a 2-year school, because we don't offer anything in that realm, will not transfer in. So we are looking at the course descriptions and normally what is constituting as an English 1003. So while English 1101 is what they took, we are coding it as our course English 1003, and that's why it's pulling in to meet that requirement.
But you do that on your end,
We
right?
do that on our end,
Okay.
yeah.
So I don't have to, when I'm looking at this, I'm always wondering who determined this?
Right, no,
That's you.
yes.
Okay.
Donna and Janine, and previously Amy Littleton were doing the evaluations. And that's where you need to be careful in electives, kind of what Joe said. If you're hearing the student saying, well, I took this course, but it's coming in as an elective, if you want to double check to see if the course would meet one of our requirements, obviously the student will have to provide a course description and a syllabus, and that goes to the dean to look at to see if it actually does determine if it meets our course.
Yeah, that was my question, because sometimes I've seen a business course that's being they're not giving credit for one of the business courses that I felt was exactly the same.
Okay.
It was put into elective, so I have to go to the dean, and the dean would then approve.
Right, and the dean, you would have to either provide a course description and or course syllabus from that institution.
Okay. And is it 10 years? Does the course have to be within 10 years?
No, there are no restrictions besides computer science, CPSC 1103. If they transfer that in over 5 years, they will not receive credit for that course.
Okay, so if they took it 10 years ago, it doesn't count.
Correct.
Okay.
Sometimes I believe that depending on other computer courses they've taken. So it's always worth checking on that. Because we have done some flexing if they have more than one computer course there.
Okay. And are we waiving the freshman seminar if they have had 2 years of community college?
They come in with 30 hours.
30 hours.
anyway.
Oh, I must have missed the memo.
Or you will see in some of our older students, if you don't see that seminar 2323 waived, and they've had personal wholeness, when we did those 4 sections,
Yes.
that will waive that seminar 2323. So if you see that still as a requirement, and those personal wholenesses, have fallen into the electives, we can waive that seminar 2323.
Do we have a form that students can fill out, current students that want to take a course, not here, someplace else during the summer to get pre-approved?
So, yes, and that's very important. That is the transient request form. It is found on my SWU under the students tab, under academic records. And we do not touch those without the form, because we want to see, first of all, what institution they're taking it at. We don't want them to take it, for instance, at when Bob Jones, I don't know where they are in their accreditation, but when they were non-accredited, we wouldn't accept that. So we don't want the student to waste the money. Also, we double check to see if it's a course similar to what they've already taken. And so we do those. And also, if it comes to a point of an iffy situation, then that's when we get the deans involved. But we have a record of what they've asked for, if we've approved it by records.
You want us to handle that? You want
No, the
students to
student.
handle that? Okay.
I've got a feature request on page 1 of this. It compares Gems of Art out of the box with current buzzing worksheet. Again, with the transfer credits there. I like the out of the box. It gives the grade there. The current buzzing worksheet, it doesn't have a grade there, and the indentations on them. And I always sort of wonder what the grade is coming in. That would be nice to have that out of the box feature. And it looks nicer on the page.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. And I see what you're talking about. You can barely see the grades on the current advising worksheet because they're overwritten by university. And we may have to do some adjusting as far as, and Thomas, I'll let you speak up. Can we make the font smaller? Because I know they want the dates in.
Yeah, we just-
We can squeeze it in. Okay. making little notes. Anything else?
I feel like the way that it somehow, I think they retake the class. If they earn a D and they need a C plus, and they're retaking it, the way the credits show up gets.
Because the D is falling into elective.
Yes.
And if it's,
And
they
then you have to
repeat it,
remember.
right, not to add.
To not go,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if there's a way to, I don't, I'm dreaming here, you're asking.
Like a repeat section?
I don't know, but just a way that you can't accidentally double count credits.
Yeah.
Because that's happened to me a couple of times. And, I mean, it
Right,
happens
they
less
cover-
frequently because I gave bad advice one time and I realized it, and
Yeah,
so now I'm a little paranoid about it.
I know too, me too, it's happened to me, so, we'll look into that, right, Todd? Thomas will look into that.
Is it possible to add something in parentheses for like certain courses that say you must make a minimum of C minus or?
Yeah, we can put that in the notes.
Especially for the students, because they'll come and they'll always say, well, I passed or D. Well,
Yeah,
they didn't count.
especially the English 100 and has math 153 been approved as a C minus course? I know we thought about it, but, okay, certain majors, okay.
So, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Certain courses, I thought if you got a D in your major, the course does not count.
You're correct.
Okay, good.
It's a C minus or better in your major courses. However, English 100, you have to have a C minus or better in the 2016 catalog or higher. It's either 16 or 17. But yeah, that's an easy fix to put a note.
Is that the only general, is that the only, what are those courses called?
General, yeah.
Or is that?
I think there's another one
And
too.
it's English 1 and English 101, right? English 1 and 2? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was both.
That's
Okay.
1 and 2?
Right,
It's a
right.
matter of
Yeah.
competency, and if you don't make a C minus or above, you have to retake it.
In English 1 or 2?
Mhm.
How about math?
It was brought to the table, and correct me if I'm wrong,
I don't think it
Randolph,
passed.
it was kind of broad, but it didn't
I
pass.
don't think it passed. Jacob had numbers and if they could like only 7 years, but I don't think it passed. I don't.
I know it was up, I know it hasn't
Right.
passed, but I don't know if it'll come up again in years and courses run together.
Regina, if they take it, the English 100 and 101 and get a D, obviously they have to retake it, but where does the D go?
Okay, so for the moment, if they make a D, it falls into elective.
Or whether it's a major class?
Okay, so let's say it's a major class and, okay, let's say they start in business and they make a D in econ. Okay, econ is a requirement, so it falls under elective until they repeat. And then it kind of washes, it does a wipe. So if they come back and make a C minus, that kind of goes away. But on the advising worksheet, it looks currently as like 6 hours. And then once it's repeated, it washes and takes it out for 3 hours. But now if they change it to psychology, you know, it will remain an elective. It's not like they have to repeat it. So, ideas, all. I mean, I'm seeing it, and I'm like, oh, well, we can bundle the repeats because we're coding them down, you know, into a separate section.
I mean, we can get that, so I'm gonna help.
I don't know if it goes away out of re-elective.
That's where it's gone. once they-
I don't think it goes away. I think that's where it gets confusing.
where
You
it
have to
goes.
remember.
That'd be very confusing.
Yeah, I mean,
Once they
I
retake it, it stays there and.
think it does, and I think that,
That would count that as 6 hours.
Yeah.
and then you get confused because you're like, okay, you start totaling up hours and then you're off.
So I'll go ahead, I will go ahead and tell y'all, do not total, and we're working on this. These totals earned,
And the black banners.
yeah, do not go by that. Always go up here in the white section.
But I guess what I'm saying,
Right,
if
I
I
know
look
it's
at the top, and then I go through all my green check marks and I'm like, 3, 3, 4,
yeah.
4, 4, and it doesn't match.
Right, because remember, sometimes some courses, for instance, may count in your gen ed requirements and in major requirements.
Oh, now we're showing them twice.
Right, so that's where your numbers will be off. For instance, econ can show up used to in a social science group and in your major core group. So that's where it's looking like, okay, it's 6 hours, but then it's a reusable course.
I think the only time that I really have problems with it is when it was a repeat and it was showing up in free electives and as a course requirement. Usually, like, if they're pre-med biology and they're taking gym bio, yes, it shows up both places, but I know that. I think it's just the repeat.
Mine, and when I'm doing an audit, I have to go, okay, I'm looking at their final semester, and I'm seeing ours, repeats. So then I have to go look to make sure that repeat, and I don't know how y'all, is not a F, or not a D, because that's counting somewhere, so I have to take the subtract. So they could be taking 18 hours, repeating, and of course they made a D in, so technically they're only getting 15 hours because they're repeating.
Right.
I think that's where I have to really sit there and do the math, and I think that's
That's exactly what I'm
where
talking
it's
about.
confusing.
Regina, to keep from taking it off the transcript, can you code it like a 0 or no credit? If it's a formally or an elective that's now being washed out because they're.
The only thing that I have an issue with that is if they switch their majors and that course could count as an elective.
But if they don't switch, there needs to be some way to.
But
There's
if you
gotta
take,
be a
if you take,
repeat
if you take
code.
intro to social and make a D and it doesn't count as as that requirement, then you take gen sci because you didn't like the course or the professor, it still counts as an elective. So it needs to be there.
But if it's in your major, you're repeating it
Right,
like accounting and you have to have it.
yeah. But if they made an accounting and hate business and switched to criminal
Right, I understand
justice,
that, but
yeah.
it's
So
elective.
I don't know. We'll have to look. And we can probably get on the listserv and see how they're handling repeat.
Currently, they show up when you repeat them as a non-degree credit section. Because I have one student who took accounting 2 twice instead of accounting 1 twice.
Mhm.
We put the wrong one. And his color is down here, but his B plus is higher.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you skip.
But how does that look when they're currently enrolled in the course and the grade hasn't posted?
Oh, it doesn't show up anywhere.
Okay.
Current enrollments don't show up anywhere.
Okay, because it's been a repeat, and that needs to show.
On my side, current classes shows a dot.
They do, unless it's been repeated and they already have a grade and it looks blank.
Oh, like they didn't make a D, they're repeating, but you're repeating it.
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
What if, say they got a C minus and they're like, I really want to get an A.
Right.
That's what I said. Right, because I've got a kid right now who wants to take calculus. So will he get 8 hours for that, or was that?
It will wash.
So it will, okay.
Right.
So his A
Right,
will replace the
right,
C.
right.
Same deal.
But
And
it
that's
won't- he won't get bored.
And that's the same deal, if you got a G and then retook it and got a D, it washes.
Oh, it's the same deal, you got a C or
Mhm,
okay,
mhm,
gotcha.
mhm. And if they got an F, the highest grade will stand. So if they got a D and got an F, the D will.
Okay, but you just don't get extra hours, you only get.
Right.
But if
And
the
they-
stu-
Oh, I was just gonna say, Libby, think question. student retakes a course, that change is reflected in the GPA, the old grade is not affecting the GPA anymore.
Okay.
Is that right?
So time out. Okay, to tell you. The repeat policy is a SWOO policy. So yeah, it will wash that one out. However, financial aid will always count every grade they've earned. So just because SWOO is a SWOO policy, not federal aid policy. So sometimes we get confused when, oh, if you retake that, you're going to get a 3.0, you know, and you'll get your life scholarship. Not the case if they repeat, because they're looking at every single grade. So those two grades with average, so you got a D and a B, you know, you get a C.
Is that something that can be publicized to students?
For the children, yeah.
Okay, so on a note, is any financial aid question, I believe it is published somewhere on the SWOO website, I'll ask Mel.
I know it's in the catalog.
Is there a catalog?
And it's stated clearly enough for the people that are taking the same course over by mistake.
Yeah, that's.
But they have to know where to look.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
And that's why any financial aid question, I've been here a long time, 15 years. SWOO's got the best of my life. I recommend everybody direct financial aid questions to the financial aid office. Because we don't know what kind of scholarships they're dealing with, if it's Palmetto, if it's Live, if it's, there's so many that any financial aid question, they're like, well, what about if I need this or this? Straight to financial aid.
The bottom line is whatever grade they've earned continues to average,
Yes.
even if they've taken the
Yes.
For
course.
financial
Yes.
aid.
For financial aid, but for SWOO, we take the
So
highest.
if they-
too.
Yes. It's a difference between a government policy and a SWOO policy.
I have a pick your brain question. It's not a request. Student athletes.
Mhm.
Would it be good to have athletic eligibility and eligible for the upcoming semester? Would that be beneficial on these audit reports?
How will the advisor, what do you want the advisor to use with that information when they see it?
For me, I do have a lot of student athletes, and if they're not eligible, then I know something along the lines of they don't have enough credit hours to be eligible, or their GPA is not where it needs to be. So I may put them in a class that I know they might be able to do decent to raise their GPA, or it'll tell me, okay, this person needs 18 credit hours instead of 16 credit hours to get back eligible again.
See, we're not, and there's no coding in Bar that I'm aware of.
eligible?
There is. See, I'm aware of sports tracker. Would that be added?
When the students go home, and
60
parents
hours.
say, you're gonna be eligible, they can pull up their home report and say.
And that will obviously depend on when athletics gets that information.
Right.
So to say, I don't know if that's really going to be helpful because I'm not sure the field's being populated in a manner.
Well, the
That-
timeline is the issue.
That discussion.
And that would be probably a Janice question.
And Janice and Drew.
Yeah, to say, because you also have you have to be within your major at 60 hours, and we run into situations, they don't have a B minus, they haven't passed praxis, so that creates
I
another.
mean, it's a lot of
Yeah.
information. but
Right,
it's
it is a
helpful
lot of
for us to know
information,
Yeah,
where they
especially
are.
when you get to the 60 hours and they have to,
Or they change majors.
or they change majors, they can't do it, so. Because that makes them ineligible there.
And a lot of our coaches are also advisors as well.
Lisa, do you know about the time frame? Do they wait for all grades to come in?
I don't know how Drew's going to handle it.
Okay.
Because he's,
Drew question.
yeah, because he's, new to the institution.
Right.
I don't know what his timeline on it will be.
Right, and Janice just took over this when Sherry left.
Right. It's pretty, I mean, that table is in pretty new hands.
Is Claire going to do that going forward, or is, no, okay, so Janice is going to keep that.
That's fine.
Okay. We may need to have a meeting, Joe, and get everybody on board to see a timeline, just so you can reflect to
And I mean, if
everybody.
nothing else, we can add that they are athletes, which at least doesn't because you can't.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell now by who's the advisor, like the head coach will be.
Yeah.
You know, they also get their guidance from trios sometimes.
Yep, that's right.
So like we have, we're singing from too many different angles. Like and nobody's communicating. I guess I'm just saying that, you know, as the primary advisor, you know, students sometimes come to me and say, oh, someone from trio said this, you know, a coach said that, and it's one of those, you know, it just sort of complicates the matter just a little bit.
So,
We want to pray for the Title III grant.
yeah,
This is part of that will be a CRM, like a centralized communication system. Where it's like everyone is basically taking case notes. If it's admitting a student, revising a student, again, for the session. It's right down campus, we all, some of us use Notepad, others use Radius, others use
Some of us don't have
Word
access to any of
document.
that.
Yeah, it's just not integrated.
Well, I think a bigger problem is that students don't even know what questions they need to ask. I mean, so, and I think about a lot of our students and social capital that they bring with them. So my daughter, okay, she has lived with a college professor most of her life, called me, she doesn't go to SWU, called me panicking because she was going to make a C in Italian. And she's like, I'm going to lose my scholarship because I need a 3.0. And I mean, at first she was hyperventilating. Like, she couldn't even talk to me because she's panicking. Now, I'm thankful that she had me to call. I don't know who she would have talked to there. But I was like, what are the grades in your other class? She's like, I'm going to have all A's. She has 16 hours. I'm like, okay, let's do some math. 2.0 and 4. I said, if you have half C's and half A's, you still have 3.0. But I mean, that to me highlighted just the whole idea that, I mean, we can have everything on the website. She didn't know the website. I mean, just having ways that we're being intentional, but also aware that we need to be pursuing them and not necessarily, which I had 54 advisees for the past 2 years. I could not pursue every single one. There were tons of things that fell through the cracks. But being aware of that yes, it's on the website, yes, it's here, but I mean, really, that's a retention issue too. If they're panicked and they think they're going to fail, we have there's one student in particular that we could have gotten him through, but he believed that it was impossible and he just stopped coming to class. It wouldn't respond to anybody. So, you know, yes, we do what we can, but also the awareness of, you know, just because it's on the website doesn't mean that we, as the faculty or the student, know these things.
and you've not, yeah, and Mildred, okay, so this is the first time I've heard about TRIO, and I think that we all have our initiative, like the initiatives to be eligible to play and ineligible to play have different academic requirements than we have. And I don't know what it's like for TRIO, and it might be where, you know, there may be a session or, you know, at division chair meetings where you bring Cindy and you bring athletics in and to talk about kind of the requirements at this point until we get the grant, fingers crossed, and we get a centralized CRM. I don't know what the requirements are for TRIO. And they shouldn't really be saying you need to take this, this, and this, because you trump all of that. As an advisor to academics, you trump all of that because you know it personally of what they need to take and what's best for the student going forward.
Just to that same note, just because it's on the website, nobody knows it's there. If we hit the rewind button, English 1, English 2, and Math 1053 require a C-.
So math does work.
Yeah, it's on the website.
But I don't think that
But you can make
trig,
a D in any of the other ones.
Right.
So
or calculus 1.
exactly. So, yeah, as much as students need somebody to care for them, faculty does too.
It's not static, they change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can remember when things were different.
Well,
And so I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember the rules.
and I'm just as guilty when you get 90 pages of academic council meetings and you skim and try to catch the highlights. That's what I love about my Steve back there. He reads it all. I'm very excited, because I'm like, oh, I just skimmed, and we do, because there's 100 pages of stuff that goes through academic council. That's all I see. I don't even see what faculty sees. So, you know, there's so much in depth, if we could just do at the end, a summarization of what's important, you know.
And actually, that information, when you go into core curriculum, and there's the list of the courses, to find that information, you have to go to the footnotes below it.
So it's not in the course description?
And I think it's in the core, maybe in the, I didn't dig that far, but it's also in the footnote, which is micro print at the bottom of that. So, but it's there.
You just have to know where to look.
Regina, when you do the final audits and you send me an email and say, you know, check this out, I mean, I think you're the expert, so I'm sure she's got it covered, but you do want us to go through each of that just to check?
Yeah, I like to call them triple eyes. Y'all are the first eyes, I'm the second eyes, and then I revert it right back to y'all and say, listen, this student looks good. If you don't see a response to that initial audit from me, what I do is I'll send one out, is the student clear to graduate? And then I reply to you, this student appears to be missing A, B, C, or A, B. Let me know what I'm missing. And that's kind of then, but that initial one, if you don't hear a response back from me, I just need a all set, all clear. And I copy and paste it right into notes and
You want us to check you?
yes, I want y'all to check that audit. Yes, please. Oh, Lord knows I don't want it to fall off.
Especially for your respective majors, because we're the experts in that. As soon as you go say, or if there's, when this student appears to be missing something, we can say, well, this should be a substitution.
This particular class is way. I have a quick side question about AP scores. When are they going to be out? Have they been? I got a kid who's like, I got a 3. I'm like, okay, I trust you. Let me go and change your class. But
yeah.
When is it
So,
going to be on here?
this is how I feel about AP credit and transfer credit. AP, they pretty much know what courses, and I suggest you can probably change. AP scores come in huge batches, so it's not individualized. They'll wait and send, you know, at certain times of the month. Transfer work, when a student says, well, I took this, da-da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da, I keep them all as liars. I will not go ahead and tell you that. And until I get that official transfer work, we're going to keep you registered for this course. So they could have a D in it. They could have something totally irrelevant to what this course is because they think they've had it. So as far as transfer work, they're liars. And these scores, I'm like, okay, we could probably, because at least it's some college work that they've had in high school that maybe, you know.
Yeah, and I'm switching from one gen ed to another. So even if by chance he fails psychology, it's not hurt right that age, you know, it's not. Right, exactly.
So, yeah, that's my philosophy on my precious ones. And when this all gets updated, Thomas is amazing. And we'll get all this worked out. Any questions? Anything that y'all are doing manually or whatnot?
Yeah.
Then
No,
let
no,
us know.
seriously, can you explain one more time the students that say I need to take an online class and I can't register?
Okay, very quickly, Title IV funding requires that a student cannot be in a different format than what they're being charged for. Okay, we charge differently in the online program. We charge by the class. Traditional, we charge by the block. So a student can't be more than 50% in another modality because we're charging different. If we all charge the same, it would be glorious and we wouldn't have to worry about it. But there's no way to block. I have to watch these movements. So I don't want them adding and dropping a course and we fall out of Title IV regulations and then we get fined. So that is the reason why. If we all went to charge in block or we all went to charge in course by course and then added, room and board, we wouldn't have to worry about it. But because we charge differently, that's the reason for the 50% rule. And that's why I have to lock it down.
So what happens when, I think we have the situation now where, the online class had to be shut down because we didn't have sufficient enrollment. I'm sorry, the face-to-face had to be shut down because we didn't have sufficient enrollment. And we had to move the students to the online class, because they need to have the class graduate, but it's above the 50%. Is that approved? Did we get that approved?
You can't approve that. We would have to change them to an online student.
So, because they're already signed up for 2 online classes, which I know which is the max that they can do.
Well, no, it's not the max. It's got to be 50%.
Only
So
if
if it's 18 hours,
Okay.
right, they could take 9 and 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think she might be able to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's doable. We tried to do a rule of kind of 6 hours to keep it where, well, at least if they're taking 12, it's 6 and 6. But if it's something like that, then we can do, the 50% 9 and 9.
So I understand that you need to be able to track it. Like, it doesn't need to be just like, that they can go in and click on the right side. But have you all thought about doing like a web link that they basically submit a request online instead of having to do paper forms?
I prefer an email. I prefer the advisor to approve these because some of these students do not need to be in a 7-week format course at all. I mean, they're at a 2.0, at 7 weeks, or they're playing sports during that semester. And I want the advisor who knows the student to approve it. So when you're shooting me an email, I think that's approval enough. I don't want a paper form, just an email. Because you know the student is, the student the best. And I don't want to say, oh, well, it's fine. They're not at the 50% rule. I could determine that yes or no, but you know your student. So if a 7-week format is just out of question and they're on probation, then I would suggest not, you know your student, you know what they're capable of.
I think we have to keep in mind too, the A, B, and C blocks are not.
Right, you don't want to stack those like 2 A's, 2 B's,
So you need a form if they take it online class?
No, an email.
You need an email.
Okay, a form exists, but you're saying.
Form exists, but an email.
Don't use it.
Just an email.
Okay. Well, y'all got fun. We've got work to do.